I fell in love with American politics and government on November 22nd, 1963. At the age of 10, I had no idea why the death of a stranger would have such an effect on my parents. For the next 4 days, my father sat me in front of CBS News, and my father loved American history. He sat me in front of CBS News and told me about the significance of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He told me about Congress and the Supreme Court. And despite the wounds he suffered at the hands of racism, my father was a real patriot. And that weekend, he told me about America in glowing terms. And also that weekend, he introduced me to the world. My career was set that weekend also. As a sophomore in college, my own love of American history caused me to take a television production class. I had the assignment of interviewing legendary anchorman Jim Vance. After the interview, Jim invited me to visit him at the NBC station where he worked. I fell in love with television news the moment I stepped into that very exciting newsroom. Jim took me around and introduced me to very busy producers and writers. He told me that the journalists in the room had 30 minutes of airtime to get this right, and that each and every one of them knew the responsibility and the magnitude of their job. So what are the responsibilities of being a journalist? In 1789, Thomas Jefferson wrote, "Our liberty cannot be protected but by the freedom of the press." It is with those words that Thomas Jefferson charged the press, or the Fourth Estate as he called it, charged them with the duty of protecting our democracy by enabling an informed public. So what does it take for us to be well informed? The press must be truthful, accurate, and thorough. You and I need them to dig down to the bedrock of the most sensational stories of corruption and wrongdoing, yet still within 24 hours be able to shed light on the events, the policies, and the ideas that shape the lives of everyday people. Do you know what I wouldn't give to know the millions of times the airwaves are filled with the same story over and over again, months and months on end? If you and I were to agree or even believe the purveyors of 24-hour news, then nothing else happened in our 50 states, the 16 territories, or anywhere around the world. As I said earlier, there was a time when the media had 30 minutes a day to get it right. It was a time when journalists and hosts would not share their opinions, and the television networks prided themselves on being politically neutral. Now, of course, I know that the potential of treason and espionage are really big issues. But what have you and I missed while they drill down on only one story? I'm going to give you a few examples. In this country already, there are 7 million people in the criminal justice system, yet the Justice Department is toughening sentencing. The federal budget potentially will cut $10 billion out of public schools. The Federal Communications Commission has said that the digital divide still exists, which means that millions of our citizens who live in rural areas do not have access to high-speed internet, which means they have been cut off from most of the world, and eventually it will affect their income. And this may be a surprise. Gay marriage is legal in Taiwan. Has the advent of social media, 24-hour news, the threat of fake news and some sort of alternative reality caused us to lose our way? The media, our elected officials, and we the people are in a dangerous food fight, and we're battering and slamming our democracy. We have the potential to have a problem for generations to come if we are not vigilant. Not long after my private tour with Jim Vance at NBC Washington, I was able to take on a job as one of the first women to be a technician at NBC Washington. This was a rare position for women in general in broadcasting. It was a very exciting time. The Watergate hearings were in full throttle, and I got to work with David Brinkley and Tom Brokaw. Every single week, I worked on local news, network news, and Meet the Press. It became more exciting for me as I moved to CBS News, where I became the first African-American woman to ever be the technical director of CBS Evening News and Meet the Press. Throughout the years, I went on to become a reporter, writer, anchor, and senior producer at C-SPAN. Throughout my career in broadcasting, I broke very tough color and gender barriers because the media at the time was being called upon to actually participate in the cultural stories it reported. In 1966, President Lyndon Johnson impaneled a commission to take a look at why the American cities were burning to the ground. The Kerner Commission concluded around the media that if they were going to accurately report on what was happening in the cities, what was happening to Black people, it had to hire, listen to, and promote Black voices. Throughout the decades, the media has shifted itself in so many ways to accommodate race and gender, language, and sexual orientation. I call upon all of us today, if you agree with me, to ask the media to take a new shape again. It is time for them to see we want more. On a network level, call a bureau chief. On a local level, call a news director and tell them what else we want to see them report in our lives. Just imagine you turn on the news, whether it is on your phone, your tablet, or on a television, and you see something different. Just imagine that you see facts, not gossip or opinion. Just imagine you see daily reports on a wide variety of policies. That reports come from about a wide range of events. And there is a rotation of 30 stories a day, not 30 ways to tell the same story. Debates beyond the left-right divide, viewpoints from the affected people, you know, we the people. Anchors without opinions, and an end to one-note networks. The owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, is quoted as saying, "Democracy dies in darkness." Let's you and I turn on the lights in our newsrooms. Let's you and I be the voice of change. Let's pick up the phone and call them. The media are the eyes and ears of our democracy. We need their vision to be sharp, their hearing acute, and their reporting unassailable. If indeed we can reimagine the Fourth Estate, that gives them the opportunity to live up to their constitutional mission, which allows us, we the people, to fiercely protect and defend them. And in return, they fiercely protect and defend our Constitution. Thank you.